A Democrat judge from Texas who took bribes hidden in six-packs in exchange for favorable rulings is going to prison. I did one video already on Rudy Delgado. A few months back, when Delgado was found guilty, I pulled up this article from last year that points out that the Texas judge who resigned earlier that year, 2018, after being accused of taking bribes, won his bid for a higher court. The judge was running as a Democrat. Even after FBI agents had already arrested him on federal bribery charges, Delgado still filed paperwork to run as a Democrat for Justice of the 13th Court of Appeals, Place 4. Despite the high-profile indictment, Delgado cruised to victory, according to results posted by the Hidalgo County Elections Department. So this was after the indictment had already been unsealed, but before the sentencing this week. Prior to that election, Delgado publicly claimed that he would not be campaigning. However, according to Dave Hendricks from the Progress Times, he spent $22,000 from political accounts. The expenses include a new iPad, steak dinners, and legal fees for representation before the Texas Ethics Commission. The case against Delgado began in 2016 when a South Texas attorney turned informant claimed that since 2008, he paid Delgado cash bribes in exchange for favorable treatment in court, reportedly while wearing a wire in some cases. In two examples, the judge released defendants on bond upon receipt of cash offerings. So a lot of people were seriously questioning these results after the indictment. And then we have the most recent update just now saying that the former Texas State District Judge has been sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. So it was announced Wednesday after he was found guilty earlier this year, when he was found guilty of accepting money hidden in six-packs of beer and other favors totaling thousands of dollars from a criminal defense lawyer whose cases he was overseeing. Former Hidalgo County District Judge Rudy Delgado, 66 years old, was arrested in February of 2018 after a 2-year probe by the FBI revealed that Delgado conspired with another attorney between 2008 and 2016 and accepted thousands of dollars worth of bribes in exchange for favorable judicial outcomes in criminal cases that he was overseeing. On 3 separate occasions, Delgado agreed to release clients of attorney No Perez from jail before trial in exchange for cash. Prosecutors said the first 2 bribes totaled approximately $520 in cash, and the third bribe was approximately $5,500. Perez cooperated with FBI agents and conceded that he bought firewood from Delgado at inflated prices, and on one occasion gave the judge a pickup truck worth approximately $15,000 because Delgado asked for it, and Perez wanted to establish credit with the judge in his courtroom. Delgado was convicted by a federal jury on July 11th of conspiracy, federal program bribery, Travel Act bribery, and obstruction of justice. The obstruction of justice charge stemmed from a text that Delgado sent to Perez after he learned of the FBI probe. In the message, Delgado attempted to pass off the bribes as campaign contributions. U.S. Attorney Ryan Patrick says of the case, quote, "The bribery of a judge may be the worst break of the public's trust in government. Rudy Delgado used his position to enrich himself. He didn't just tip the scales of justice, he knocked it over with a wad of cash and didn't look back. Delgado's actions unfairly tarnish all his former colleagues." Another local news outlet has more details on the sentencing, pointing out that disgraced ex-judge Rudy Delgado will be in his 70s when his 60-month prison term expires, nearly 18 months after FBI agents raided the Hidalgo County Courthouse looking to remove evidence from Delgado's courtroom and office in connection with the bribery investigation. the former judge has been sentenced to prison. The U.S. District Judge handed down the sentence on Delgado hours after punishing the government's star witness, the Edinburgh-based attorney turned informant Noe Perez. Government prosecutors during the trial argued that their star witness, Perez, and Delgado didn't quite establish a direct quid pro quo bribery scheme, but instead there was an understanding between the two, specifically during instances where Perez would overpay for firewood at the judge's home. So this was part of the attempted defense, something that Perez testified he hoped would lead to favorable consideration in the judge's court. For his part, Delgado's attorney, Michael McCrum, argued that exact point, citing the government's lack of clear pay for favor evidence and stating that his client never took anything for any actionable results or favors in his courtroom. But jurors, after a 4-day trial and roughly 10 hours of deliberations, were clearly convinced of Delgado's guilt, seemingly placing a large amount of weight on the government's evidence, specifically the video and audio recordings of Perez and Delgado, in which jurors could hear, in his own words, how Delgado spoke to Perez. The recorded encounters with Perez and Delgado proved crucial to the government's case. Perez, who lived near Delgado's home, would drive to the property under the guise of buying firewood, sometimes arriving with a case of beer, which on occasion also had anywhere from $250 to $260 cash inside. One of the recorded meetings helped the government prove the obstruction charge against Delgado, who allegedly attempted to cover his tracks with Perez after learning of a potential FBI investigation back in January of 2018. Prosecutors argued that it was clear in the text message that Delgado sent to Perez the end of January of 2018, just 4 days after Delgado learned of a possible federal investigation into him. It's clear that this text was intended to make it appear as though the money that he had received from Perez nearly 2 weeks earlier needed to be in check form for it to be a campaign contribution. So this was a cover-up after the fact, after they'd learned of the federal investigation. Within days of Delgado learning, they came up with this story. This recording shown to jurors from one of the 4 recorded meetings between the two men, this one on January 17th, 2018, shows Perez inside his pickup truck meeting with Delgado in the parking lot of a North McAllen restaurant. During this meeting, Perez gives the name of a client and the client's court case number to Delgado and asks the judge to help him with it. Delgado agrees and is handed a 1/2-inch to inch thick white envelope containing $5,500 in cash. This was important to the government's case as it argued that after Delgado learns of his investigation, the investigation into him, he sent a message to Perez stating he would have to return the envelope full of cash in exchange for a check because he could not accept that much cash for a campaign contribution, which wasn't mentioned during the actual meeting. Jurors during the 3rd day of testimony were handed the envelope containing the $5,500 and allowed to touch it. This was the prosecution's attempt to disprove any notion that Delgado would have believed that there was a check inside the envelope. Prosecutors claimed this was clearly an attempt by Delgado to frame the interaction with Perez on January 17th as legitimate. The message sent on January 29th, 2018 from Delgado to Perez said, quote, "Good evening. Please call me. The campaign contribution needs to be by check. I need to return that to you so you can write a check. Sorry about the confusion. I thought you knew and I did not open the envelope until today." So Perez was also sentenced in addition to Delgado. Noe Perez got a 24-month prison term sentence for bribing the former state district judge, Rudy Delgado. Perez's attorney asked for leniency in the sentence, but the judge rejected their request for probation, saying it was a non-starter based on his actions. Clearly remorseful during his statement to the court, Perez described his time in law school and how a professor once warned him that aside from learning Texas and U.S. law, he should also learn Valley law. Perez elaborated that if he had not participated in how Valley law works, he would not have been successful in obtaining clients, stating that it's just how things work in the Valley. He went on to describe golf tournaments, skeet shooting events, and other fundraisers where, according to Perez, giving money to a judge for future favorable consideration is expected. Perez implored the court to recognize what he called Valley law. Quote, "I tried to get out. I don't want to pay anymore," Perez said. "You either do it or you don't." During testimony, it was revealed that Perez was accused by a client of attempting to hustle them for more money, which brought the attention squarely on Perez after the client went to the feds to complain. It was during this encounter that Perez, facing the possibility of being under investigation himself, told agents of Delgado and the bribes that he made to him. Perez, who testified as a way to potentially be eligible for a reduced sentence given this cooperation as a government informant starting in June 2016 until Delgado's arrest in February of 2018, and during the trial, was facing up to 5 years in prison. The attorney will also be required to serve 2 years of supervised release upon completion of the 2-year prison term. So an interesting update here. Delgado sentenced to 5 years in prison, and this other attorney, Perez, who eventually became an informant for the feds, also sentenced. He's been sentenced to 24 months. Tell me what you think about the case. If you could leave a comment and leave a like on the video, it's greatly appreciated. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. There's also links in the video description to my Patreon account, patreon.com/realityreader, one place where you can support the channel. Also, my PayPal, paypal.me/realityreader. You can support the channel directly over there. A couple dollars makes a huge difference, helps me keep talking about these issues. I'll follow up soon. Thanks, everyone.